Hello and welcome. Today we're delving into General Stonewall Jackson's official account of the Battle of Fredericksburg. Jackson stands as a stoic icon in history, and this report reveals the core principles he valued as a military leader, while also giving us a unique window into the mind of this renowned tactician. First, be sure to like and subscribe to Winlink DeepDive to support our investigative community. Around 10 o'clock, as the fog lifted, the enemy's lines, organized for their assault, became clearly visible on the plain between our position and the river. They covered my entire front and stretched far to the left toward Fredericksburg. I estimated the force facing me to be roughly 55,000 men. Pelham, using a section of Stuart's horse artillery, was quickly engaged with the enemy's guns, and a spirited and lively exchange continued for about an hour. Soon after, Pelham, following orders, pulled back from his position on the Port Royal Road. The enemy then concentrated their artillery fire on the heights held by Lieutenant Colonel Walker and into the woods generally occupied by our troops, clearly hoping to provoke a response that would reveal our strength and positions. When they elicited no reply, the enemy seemed satisfied that they would meet little resistance in an attempt to seize this hill. Consequently, around 11 o'clock, he advanced toward my flank parallel to the Port Royal Road, nearly reaching the road that runs from there to Hamilton's Crossing. Now facing no obstruction since Pelham had withdrawn, he advanced in a line of battle across the plain, heading directly for the position held by Walker. His batteries held their fire until the enemy's lines came within less than 800 yards. It was then that the 14 guns opened up, pouring such a swarm of shot and shell into his ranks that it forced him to first halt, then waver, and finally to flee for cover. At approximately 1 o'clock, the main attack began with heavy and rapid artillery barrages. Protected by this intense and accurate fire, his infantry advanced in great force, seeking some cover from a patch of woods that extended beyond the railroad. The batteries on our right fired upon their flanks with devastating results. The advancing force was visibly shaken by the rapid and well-aimed artillery, but soon recovered from the blow. The Federal troops, consisting of the main body of Franklin's Grand Division, supported by a part of Hooker's Grand Division, continued to press forward. Advancing to point-blank range of our infantry and thus exposed to a murderous crossfire of musketry and artillery, the struggle became fierce and bloody. They nevertheless kept pressing forward, and before General A.P. Hill could close the gap he had left between Archer's and Lane's brigades, it was penetrated. The enemy, pushing forward in overwhelming numbers through that opening, turned Lane's right and Archer's left. Thus attacked from both front and rear, the 14th Tennessee and 19th Georgia of Archer's brigade, along with Lane's entire brigade, were forced to fall back, but not before putting up a brave and stubborn resistance. Despite the dangerous situation in which Archer's brigade was placed, his right wing changed front and continued to struggle with undaunted firmness, significantly checking the enemy's advance until reinforcements arrived. The brigade of General Thomas, posted as stated earlier, moved gallantly forward and, joined by the 7th and part of the 18th North Carolina from Lane's brigade, courageously drove back the Federal column that had broken through Lane's line. In the meantime, a large enemy force moved through the woods to the rear of the positions held by the brigades of Lane and Archer and made contact with Gregg's brigade. Taken by surprise, Orr's rifles were thrown into confusion. It was while in the act of rallying this regiment that Brigadier General Maxcy Gregg fell in front of the rifles, mortally wounded. General Gregg was a brave and accomplished officer, full of heroic sentiment and chivalrous honor. He had rendered valuable service in this struggle for our freedom, and the country has much reason to mourn the loss sustained by his premature death. Colonel Hamilton, upon whom the command of that brigade now fell, hurried to meet the emergencies of his position, and with the 4 remaining regiments and 1 company of the Orr Rifles, gave the enemy a heated reception. The enemy was not permitted to hold the advantage he had gained for long. The second line moved promptly to support the first. Lawton's brigade, commanded by Colonel Atkinson and subsequently by Colonel Evans. Trimble's brigade, commanded by R.F. Hoke, and Early's brigade, commanded by Colonel Walker, all under the command of Brigadier General Early, along with the 47th and 22nd Virginia Regiments of Colonel Brockenbrough's command, were already rushing with impetuous valor to support the first line. On Taliaferro's front, his right regiment, the 2nd Virginia of Paxton's brigade, became engaged with a part of the enemy, which, after a brief resistance, retreated. The combat in the wood was short and decisive. The enemy's further advance was checked. They were driven with great slaughter from the wood to the railroad. The 2 regiments of Brockenbrough's command, along with Archer's 1st Tennessee and 5th Alabama Battalion, and the 3 brigades commanded by Colonels Hoke, Walker, and Atkinson, pursued the retreating Federals to the railroad, where they made a brief stand. Hoke and Atkinson then charged upon them, destroying many in the charge and capturing a large number of prisoners. Nor did they stop there, but driven by an ardor that reflects the highest credit on their courage and patriotism, this comparatively small force pressed the defeated foe in hot pursuit until they advanced so far within range of his artillery and under the fire of a large force of his infantry as to make any further pursuit an act of rashness. In this gallant charge, Atkinson was severely wounded and captured by the enemy. Colonel E.P. Lawton, Assistant Adjutant General of the brigade, though injured early in the advance by the fall of his horse, continued to press forward on foot, heroically encouraging the brigade until he fell mortally wounded. On the extreme left, the day did not pass without incidents worthy of notice. Early in the day, the enemy opened upon the left with 16 guns, later increasing to 24. The officers in command followed their orders, and holding their fire, the enemy advanced his skirmishers and a heavy line upon the positions held by the commands of Captains Davidson and Brockenbrough. They were soon driven off by canister fire, but the location of these batteries being revealed to the enemy, a heavy artillery fire was directed upon them, which was returned with animation and spirit. The ammunition of Captain Raines's battery proving defective, it was withdrawn, and Captain Latimer, acting Chief of Artillery for the division, was ordered to take a position further to the front and left. These last pieces were admirably served, and, though suffering severely from enemy skirmishers and sharpshooters, drove them back and, by the accuracy and rapidity of their fire, inflicted severe losses on the enemy. As the Federal infantry pressed forward upon our front, it was deemed advisable to withdraw the batteries of Captain Brockenbrough and place them in advance of the railroad before the enemy could seize the point of the woods to the right and rear, which they penetrated a short time later. The withdrawal of the batteries was covered by Lieutenant Colonel Hill of the 7th North Carolina. Repulsed on the right, left, and center, the enemy soon afterward reformed his lines and showed some indication of an intent to renew the attack. I waited for some time to receive it, but as he made no forward movement, I determined, if prudent, to take the initiative myself. The enemy's artillery was so judiciously placed as to make an advance of our troops across the plain extremely hazardous. Yet the move was so promising of good results, if successful, that it prompted me to prepare for the attempt. To guard against disaster, the infantry was to be preceded by artillery, and the movement was postponed until late in the evening, so that if compelled to retire, it would be under the cover of darkness. Due to unexpected delays, the movement could not be prepared until late in the evening. The first gun had hardly moved forward from the wood 100 yards when the enemy's artillery reopened fire, and so completely swept our front as to convince me that the proposed movement should be abandoned. I hope you enjoyed this detailed account from Stonewall Jackson himself on the Battle of Fredericksburg. By examining these personal accounts and official reports, we can understand Jackson a little better, particularly in how we view him as a military strategist. If you enjoyed this historical deep dive, please subscribe to Winlink Deep Dive for more explorations into pivotal moments of the Civil War. Thanks for watching.